What if the most dangerous battlefield in the ancient world was not won by the strongest army, not by chariots, not by spears, not by the thousands of soldiers lined up on either side of a valley waiting to fight? It was won by a teenager, a boy who smelled like sheep, who had no armor, no military training, and no place on that battlefield. The kind of person every general would have sent home. On one side of the valley stood the Philistine army, the most feared military force in the region, and in front of them stood their champion, a warrior so enormous, so terrifying, that when he walked onto the field, trained soldiers turned and ran. He had been doing this for 40 days, and nobody dared answer him. Nobody until the shepherd boy showed up. But before the stone left the sling, before the giant fell, there was a story unfolding in the background. A story about a boy nobody had chosen, a king who had everything and lost it, and a God who was already writing the ending before the battle even began. Stay with us until the end, because what this shepherd boy said before he threw the stone will change the way you understand courage forever. If this story speaks to you, please like, share, and subscribe to Unbroken Faith TV. It helps us spread the word through the history of the Bible. Now, let's begin. In the hills of Bethlehem, in a region called Judah, there was a man named Jesse who had 8 sons. 8 sons meant 8 hands for the work, 8 futures to protect, 8 names a father carried with pride. The 7 oldest were tall, strong, and built for war. They were the kind of sons a man pointed to with confidence. The youngest was out with the sheep. His name was David. While his brothers trained and stood and were seen, David sat in the fields. He watched the sky. He played a small harp in the dark. He chased down wolves and bears with his bare hands to protect animals that could not protect themselves. He was not invisible because he was weak. He was invisible because nobody was paying attention. But God was. One day, a prophet named Samuel arrived in Bethlehem. God had sent him with a mission. The current king of Israel, a man named Saul, had disobeyed God once too many times. God had already decided to give the throne to someone else. Samuel came to Jesse's house and asked to see his sons. Jesse brought them one by one, tall, strong, impressive. And one by one, God said no. When all 7 had stood before Samuel, the prophet turned to Jesse and asked, "Are these all your sons? There is still the youngest. He is out keeping the sheep. Send for him." When David arrived, sunburned, probably smelling of grass and livestock, God said something that would echo across centuries. "Rise and anoint him. This is the one." Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed David in front of his brothers. From that moment forward, the Spirit of God came powerfully upon him. Nobody crowned him that day. Nobody gave him a sword or throne room. He went right back out to the fields. But the choice had already been made. To understand why David mattered, you have to understand what Saul had become. Saul had been everything Israel wanted in a king. Tall, handsome, chosen by God. When Samuel first anointed him, Saul was so overwhelmed that he hid among the baggage because he could not believe it was really him. But power does something to a man who has not learned to handle it. Saul began to take shortcuts with God. He offered sacrifices that only the priest was allowed to offer because he did not want to wait. He spared the life of an enemy king God had commanded him to destroy because the man was impressive. He made decisions based on what the people around him thought rather than what God had said.
And so God sent Samuel to him with a word that no king wants to hear. Because you rejected the word of the Lord has rejected you as king. It did not happen immediately. Saul still wore the crown, he still sat on the throne, but the Spirit of God had left him, and in its place came something darker, a tormenting spirit that sent him into fits of rage and despair. His servants noticed. Someone suggested that music might help calm him. They went looking for a skilled musician. The name that kept coming up was a shepherd boy from Bethlehem. David came to the palace and played his harp for the king. Saul loved him. The music drove the darkness away. Saul made him one of his armor-bearers and kept him close. He had no idea he was looking at his replacement.
The Philistines had been a thorn in Israel's side for generations. They occupied the coastal plains to the west. They had iron. Israel did not. They had military discipline, war chariots, and a long history of dominating the region. Now they marched again. The Philistine army gathered in the territory of Judah between two towns called Soko and Azekah. They camped on one hill. Israel's army, led by Saul, took position on the hill across from them. Between them was the valley of Elah. Both armies stared across that valley and waited. Then the Philistines sent out their champion. He came from a town called Gath. His name was Goliath. And when he stepped out of the Philistine camp, the entire Israelite army took a step back. The man was over 9 feet tall. His bronze helmet alone weighed what most men could barely carry. The coat of armor on his chest weighed more than 125 pounds. He carried a spear whose iron tip alone weighed 15 pounds. His bronze javelin was slung across his back. A shield-bearer walked ahead of him just to carry what protected his body. He walked to the center of the valley and shouted across to the army of Israel, "Why do you need an army? I am a Philistine, and you are servants of Saul. Choose a man and have him come fight me. If he is able to kill me, we will become your servants. But if I kill him, you will become ours." Then he said the thing that made Israel's blood run cold. "I defy the armies of Israel this day. Send me a man and let us fight." Nobody moved. Saul and all the Israelites were terrified and deeply shaken. Goliath came back the next morning, and the morning after that. For 40 days he walked out at sunrise and at sunset and shouted the same challenge across the valley. 40 days, and Israel's army stood frozen on their hill.
David's 3 oldest brothers had enlisted in Saul's army. They were camped in the valley with everyone else. Jesse, their father, called David in from the fields one morning and gave him a task. "Take this food to your brothers. Bring back word of how they are doing." David left before dawn. He reached the valley as the army was marching out to take their battle positions. He found his brothers in the ranks and was talking with them when Goliath stepped out. David watched the giant shout his challenge, and then he watched what happened next. The men of Israel fled from him in terror. He had probably heard about the giant, but hearing about something and seeing it are not the same thing. David looked at the 9-foot warrior standing in the valley, and then looked at the army around him and could not reconcile what he was seeing. He turned to the men nearby and asked a question. "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" His oldest brother Eliab overheard him, and his face burned with anger. "Why have you come down here? Who is watching those few sheep in the wilderness? I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is.
You came down here just to watch the battle." David looked at him. "What have I done now? Was it not just a question?" He turned away and asked someone else the same thing, and another. Word of this strange shepherd boy who was asking questions nobody else was asking reached the king. Saul sent for him.
David stood before the king of Israel and said something that nobody else in the camp was saying. "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul looked at the boy in front of him. This was the same young man who had played the harp in his chambers. He was not a soldier. He was barely grown. "You cannot go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." David did not back down, but he did not boast either. He told the king his story. "When a lion came and took a sheep from my flock, I went after it and struck it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I grabbed it by its hair and struck it and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God." Then he said the line that explained everything. "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Saul looked at him for a long moment. "Go, and the Lord be with you." He dressed David in his own armor, bronze helmet, coat of armor, sword. David tried to walk. He could not. He had never worn armor before. It did not fit. The weight was wrong. The movement was wrong. Everything about it was wrong. He took it all off. He picked up his shepherd's staff. He walked to the stream running through the valley. He reached down and chose 5 smooth stones and put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag. He held his sling in his hand, and he walked toward the giant.
Goliath saw David coming across the valley, and he could not believe what he was looking at. He had been standing out here for 40 days calling for Israel's greatest warrior, and they sent him a boy with a stick. He cursed David by his gods. "Come here, and I will give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." David kept walking, and he answered the giant. "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." He did not stop walking. "This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands. I will strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel." One more sentence, the sentence that explained everything. "All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." As Goliath moved to meet him, David ran. He reached into his bag. He took out a stone. He loaded it into the sling. He ran straight at the 9-foot warrior who had frozen an entire army for 40 days. The stone left the sling. It struck Goliath in the forehead. The giant fell forward, face down on the ground. The valley went silent. David ran to where Goliath lay. He had no sword of his own. He pulled the giant's own sword from its sheath and used it to cut off his head. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. And Israel's army, frozen on their hill for 40 days, suddenly found their legs. They shouted, they charged, they pursued the Philistines all the way back to their own gates. The valley that had been a standstill became a rout. The battle that nobody had wanted to fight was over in minutes. All because one stone found the one place a giant was vulnerable, and one boy had the faith to throw it.
After the battle, Saul asked his commander Abner who the boy was. Abner did not know. Saul called David before him again. Now he was holding Goliath's severed head in his hand. "Whose son are you, young man?" "I am the son of your servant Jesse of Bethlehem." That day Saul did not send David back to the fields. He kept him at the palace. He gave him a position in the army. He gave him authority. And the people of Israel could not stop talking about him. As the army returned home, women came out from every town in Israel to celebrate the victory. They sang and danced in the streets. They played tambourines and lyres. And the song they sang would plant a seed of jealousy in Saul that would take root for years. "Saul has struck down his thousands, but David his tens of thousands." Saul heard it, and his face darkened. "They credit David with tens of thousands, and me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom?" From that day on, Saul watched David with suspicious eyes. But the shepherd boy had already become something nobody could take back. He had become the hope of Israel, the one who stood when no one else would, the one who ran toward what everyone else ran from. And God had not forgotten the anointing in Bethlehem. The crown was already on its way.
Jericho was gone, but Rahab was not. The battle was over, but the story was just beginning. And if you stay with what God started in that valley, it will take you somewhere you never expected. From David and Goliath, there are three things we cannot walk away without saying. From David, we learn that God does not look at what the world looks at. His brothers were taller. His brothers were older. His brothers were already in the army. Jesse did not even bring David into the house when the prophet arrived. He was the forgotten one, the youngest, the shepherd, and he was the one God chose. The person in your life who has been overlooked, underestimated, or left out of the room, pay attention. God tends to show up in the places nobody else is looking. From the giant, we learn that size is not the same as strength. Goliath had been undefeated so long that everyone had already decided he was undefeatable. 40 days of the same threat will do that to an army. It will do that to a person. But David had not watched 40 days of Goliath. He had watched years of God. He had seen what God did with a lion. He had seen what God did with a bear. By the time he stood in that valley, his faith was not based on hope, it was based on history. And from the stone itself, we learn that the battle is never really ours. David said it plainly before he threw it. It is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves. The battle is the Lord's. He did not go into that valley because he was the strongest. He went in because he was certain about whose name he was carrying. That certainty was not arrogance, it was faith. There is a difference between believing you can do something and believing that God will do something through you. One of those is confidence in yourself. The other is confidence in God. Only one of them can walk up to a 9-foot giant without flinching. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Unbroken Faith TV and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it and leave a like. It helps more people find these stories. And tell us in the comments, which Bible story should we cover next?
Thank you for watching.